5 fears you must destroy. A Stoic's challenge to every man. Most men believe fear appears during life's biggest moments, before taking a risk, before making an important decision, before facing failure. That is how fear is usually portrayed. Loud, obvious, impossible to ignore. Marcus Aurelius believed something far more dangerous. The fears that shape your life rarely announce themselves. They arrive quietly, disguised as caution, patience, responsibility, common sense. They don't tell you to give up. They simply tell you to wait. Wait until you know more. Wait until you feel confident. Wait until the timing is perfect. Wait until life becomes easier. At first, it sounds wise. Who wouldn't want to make the right decision? Who wouldn't want to avoid unnecessary mistakes? But fear has a remarkable talent. It disguises delay as intelligence. It disguises hesitation as maturity. It disguises avoidance as preparation. The tragedy is that most men never realize they are listening to fear. They believe they are simply being careful. One day becomes 1 week. 1 week becomes 1 year. Then they look back and wonder why nothing changed. The answer is painfully simple. Fear never needed to stop them. It only needed to convince them to stand still. The Stoics understood something that still challenges us today. Fear rarely destroys a man's life overnight. It slowly persuades him to become smaller, to speak less than he truly believes, to dream less than he truly desires, to attempt less than he is truly capable of achieving. Eventually, he no longer lives according to his potential. He lives according to his fears. Marcus Aurelius refused to let fear become his advisor. He understood that reason must always stand above emotion. A difficult decision was never an invitation to retreat. It was an opportunity to practice courage before certainty existed. Seneca reaches the same conclusion in Letters to Lucilius by Seneca, chapter 3. He reminds Lucilius that wisdom is not the absence of uncertainty, but the ability to remain faithful to what is right, even when the future cannot be fully seen. The man who waits for complete certainty will wait longer than his life allows. Think about the opportunities that have already passed through your hands. The conversations you never started, the goals you postponed, the risks you convinced yourself to take later. How many of them disappeared because you truly were not capable? And how many disappeared because fear quietly asked you to wait just a little longer? That single question has the power to change everything. Because courage is almost never one extraordinary act. It is a series of ordinary decisions, where fear is no longer allowed to cast the deciding vote. Today, you'll discover the 5 invisible fears that quietly steal a man's future, and why the Stoics believed that every meaningful life begins the moment fear loses its authority over your decisions. Fear 1, the fear of starting before you're ready. The first fear is one almost every man believes is wisdom. It sounds responsible. It sounds intelligent. It even sounds mature. You tell yourself you're waiting for the right time, the right opportunity, the right plan, the right amount of confidence. The problem is that none of those things ever arrive before action. Most men believe they are preparing. In reality, they are postponing. They think one more book will make them ready. One more course. One more month. One more year. They mistake preparation for progress. But preparation without action eventually becomes another form of fear. Marcus Aurelius understood that clarity is rarely found before movement. It is found because of movement. Every meaningful decision contains uncertainty. Waiting for complete certainty is another way of asking life to remove every risk before you agree to live. Think about every person you admire. The entrepreneur who started with very little. The athlete who entered the gym before feeling confident. the man who changed his life without knowing exactly how it would unfold. None of them began because fear disappeared. They began because they stopped asking fear for permission. The truth is uncomfortable. The perfect moment has never existed. Every generation has believed life would become easier later. It never does. There will always be another reason to wait, another obstacle, another excuse that sounds perfectly logical. Fear knows this. That is why it never tells you to abandon your dream. It only tells you to delay it. Tomorrow becomes next week. Next week becomes next year. Eventually, delay becomes identity. The man who once dreamed of building something extraordinary slowly becomes the man who explains why he never started. Seneca teaches this lesson in Letters to Lucilius by Seneca, chapter 3. He reminds Lucilius that wisdom belongs to the man who acts according to reason instead of waiting for circumstances to become perfect. The future is never promised. Every unnecessary delay quietly gives away a piece of the life you could already be living. There is another truth most men refuse to accept. Action creates confidence. Confidence does not create action. Every step forward teaches something that standing still never can. Every attempt builds experience. Every mistake creates knowledge. Every failure removes another illusion. The man who begins imperfectly will always stand ahead of the man who keeps planning perfectly. Remember this: the man who waits to feel ready often spends his life waiting. Fear always promises that tomorrow will be a better day to begin. Courage understands that today is the only day that truly exists. But starting is only the first battle, because once you begin moving forward, another fear quietly appears. One that has stopped countless men from living according to their own convictions. Fear 2, the fear of being judged. The second fear is far more subtle than most men realize. It does not stop you because you lack ability. It stops you because you imagine someone else's opinion before you even take your first step. You think about what people might say, what they might think, how they might react if you fail. Before you have even acted, your mind has already created an audience. That imaginary audience quietly becomes your prison. You hesitate to start a business because someone might laugh. You avoid going to the gym because you believe people are watching. You stay silent during an important conversation because you fear sounding foolish. You postpone changing careers because you imagine family and friends questioning your decision. None of those people have stopped you. Most of them have not even formed an opinion. Yet fear convinces you to surrender your freedom before anyone else has spoken a single word. Marcus Aurelius understood that another person's judgment belongs to them, not to you. He refused to build his life around opinions he could never control. A man who constantly adjusts his actions to satisfy everyone around him slowly loses the ability to recognize his own principles. This is where many lives become smaller, not because opportunities disappear, because the courage to seize them quietly fades. The Stoics never measured a decision by how popular it would become. They measured it by whether it was aligned with virtue, reason, integrity, character. Those were the only standards that mattered. Seneca reinforces this lesson in Letters to Lucilius by Seneca, chapter 3. He teaches that the wise man does not place his peace in the hands of public opinion because praise and criticism are equally unstable. The crowd changes its judgment every day. A principled man does not. Think about how many dreams have been abandoned because of invisible spectators. Businesses that were never started, relationships that were never pursued, ideas that were never shared. Not because they were impossible, because someone imagined another person's opinion before imagining their own future. The painful truth is this: most people are thinking far less about you than you believe. They are occupied with their own fears, their own insecurities, their own lives. Yet many men sacrifice years of potential trying to satisfy an audience that was never truly watching. Remember this: every dream dies the moment another person's opinion becomes more important than your own principles. The day you stop living for approval is the day your life begins belonging to you again. But there is another fear even more difficult to confront. It does not come from other people. It comes from the man staring back at you in the mirror. Fear 3. The fear of your own potential. The third fear is the one almost nobody talks about. Most men believe they are afraid of failure. Sometimes they are. But often, something much deeper is happening. They are afraid of discovering what they are truly capable of becoming. Because real growth changes everything. It changes your habits, your standards, your friendships, your daily routine. The excuses that once protected you no longer work. The comfortable life you built no longer feels acceptable. Greatness demands responsibility, discipline, consistency. It asks you to become someone your current identity has never met before. That is why so many people unknowingly choose an ordinary life. Not because they lack talent, because remaining average feels familiar. Familiarity feels safe. Fear understands this perfectly. It whispers, "Stay where you are. You've already done enough. Don't change too much. People won't recognize you." Those words sound comforting, but they carry a hidden cost. Every year you spend protecting your current identity is another year that you postpone becoming the person you were capable of becoming. Marcus Aurelius never accepted the comfort of remaining the same. He believed that every human being possesses a higher nature that deserves to be developed through discipline, wisdom, and courage. Every day became an opportunity to move a little closer to the man reason called him to become. Instead of the man, comfort asked him to remain. Seneca echoes this principle in Letters to Lucilius by Seneca, chapter 3. He reminds Lucilius that wisdom requires continual self-improvement. The greatest danger is not discovering your limitations. It is becoming satisfied long before you have reached your potential. A man who stops growing begins slowly surrendering the best version of himself. Think about the life you imagine for yourself, the man you want to become, the habits you wish you had, the confidence you admire in others, the discipline you hope to build. What if the greatest obstacle standing between you and that future is not your lack of ability, but your fear of becoming someone different? Because once you become stronger, there is no returning to the excuses that once defined you. Once you become disciplined, you can no longer pretend you are powerless. Once you discover your potential, you become responsible for living up to it. That responsibility frightens many men far more than failure ever could. Remember this. Sometimes fear whispers, "Stay where you are." Not because you can't grow, because growth would change everything. The strongest prison is not built by weakness. It is built by the comfort of remaining the person you have always been. But there is another fear that quietly steals even more lives. It convinces men to avoid a few moments of discomfort. And in doing so, they sacrifice years they can never recover. Fear 4. The fear of temporary pain. The fourth fear rarely looks dangerous. It feels reasonable. It tells you to avoid discomfort today, to protect yourself from embarrassment, from rejection, from failure, from difficult conversations. It promises immediate relief, and for a moment, it delivers exactly that. You avoid making the phone call. You postpone the difficult conversation. You decide not to apply for the opportunity. You stay silent instead of speaking the truth. The discomfort disappears, at least for today. That is why this fear is so deceptive. It always rewards you immediately. but it always sends the real cost into your future. A difficult conversation avoided today often becomes a broken relationship tomorrow. One opportunity ignored today becomes years of wondering what might have happened. One rejection avoided today becomes a dream that slowly disappears. Temporary comfort has a habit of creating permanent regret. Marcus Aurelius understood that pain is often the price of growth. He never measured a decision by whether it felt pleasant in the present moment. He measured it by whether it was worthy of the man he was striving to become. A difficult action guided by reason was always more valuable than an easy action guided by fear. Seneca teaches the same principle in Letters to Lucilius by Seneca, chapter 3. He reminds Lucilius that wisdom requires enduring small hardships willingly instead of creating greater suffering through avoidance. The man who constantly escapes temporary discomfort often finds himself trapped in long-term misery that could have been prevented by one courageous decision. Think about the hardest conversations you've ever had, the ones you kept postponing. How often did reality turn out to be less frightening than the weeks of anxiety leading up to it? Fear exaggerates pain before it happens. Reason sees it for what it truly is: temporary. Most pain has an ending. Regret often does not. That is why the Stoics never asked, "How can I avoid discomfort?" They asked, "What kind of pain is worth enduring?" Because every meaningful life demands sacrifice. Discipline requires discomfort. Honesty requires discomfort. Growth requires discomfort. Freedom requires discomfort. The question is never whether you will experience pain. The question is which pain you are willing to choose: the temporary pain of courage or the lasting pain of regret. Remember this: the pain you avoid today often becomes the regret you carry tomorrow. A few moments of courage can spare you years of wondering what your life might have become. But there is one fear even deeper than pain. It does not ask you to avoid a difficult moment. It asks you to protect an old version of yourself, even when that version is keeping you trapped. Fear 5. The fear of becoming someone different. The fifth fear is the one that quietly controls every other fear. It is not the fear of failure. It is not the fear of rejection. It is not even the fear of pain. It is the fear of becoming someone different. Most men believe they want change: a better body, a stronger mind, more discipline, more confidence, a different life. But very few stop to ask themselves what change actually demands. Every transformation requires a farewell. You cannot become disciplined while protecting the habits that made you undisciplined. You cannot become courageous while holding on to the identity built around fear. You cannot become the man you admire if you insist on remaining the man you have always been. That is where fear quietly speaks. It says, "This is who you are. You've always been like this. People won't understand the new you. You'll lose friends. You'll change too much." For many men, those words are enough to stop growing. Not because growth is impossible, because familiarity feels safer than transformation. People often choose a familiar life they dislike over an unfamiliar life they secretly desire. Not because it makes them happier, because it feels predictable. The Stoics understood that every stage of wisdom requires leaving behind an older version of yourself. Marcus Aurelius never tried to preserve the man he had been yesterday. Every day became an opportunity to correct another weakness, strengthen another virtue, and move one step closer to the character reason demanded of him. His greatest battle was never against other people. It was against the limits of his own previous self. Seneca teaches the same lesson in Letters to Lucilius by Seneca, chapter 3. He reminds Lucilius that philosophy is not about protecting the life we have always known. It is about continually refining ourselves through deliberate change. The wise man does not fear becoming different. He fears remaining the same when he knows he is capable of becoming better. Think about the version of yourself you have been carrying for years. The man who hesitates, the man who overthinks, the man who keeps waiting, the man who keeps making the same promises and breaking them. What if the greatest obstacle in your life is not your circumstances, but your loyalty to an identity that no longer serves you? Because every meaningful transformation begins with one difficult decision. The decision to stop protecting the person you used to be. Growth always demands a goodbye. Goodbye to old habits. Goodbye to limiting beliefs. Goodbye to excuses. Goodbye to the comfort of being predictable. That goodbye is uncomfortable. But it is also the birthplace of every stronger version of yourself. Remember this: every new version of yourself requires saying goodbye to the old one. The man who refuses to change remains imprisoned by the life he already knows. The man who embraces transformation discovers a future fear could never imagine. Imagine two men standing at the edge of the exact same opportunity. Both feel fear. Both hear the same voice telling them to wait. Both imagine everything that could go wrong. From the outside, they appear identical. Neither one is stronger. Neither one is more talented. Neither one has been given an easier life. The difference exists where no one else can see it. One man believes fear is a warning. The other understands that fear is often a test. One spends years protecting the life he already knows. The other is willing to risk becoming the man he was created to be. That single decision slowly separates two completely different futures. The first man waits until he feels ready. He waits until he feels confident. He waits until the timing is perfect. Without realizing it, waiting becomes his way of living. His dreams become smaller. His ambitions become quieter. His world slowly shrinks until it fits inside the limits of his fears. The second man feels the same uncertainty. He experiences the same doubt. His heart races before difficult conversations. He questions himself before taking important risks. He's not fearless. He simply refuses to let fear become the author of his life. Marcus Aurelius understood that courage is not the absence of fear. It is the discipline of allowing reason to lead while fear remains present. Every challenge became another opportunity to prove that character is stronger than emotion. He never expected life to remove uncertainty. He expected himself to act with integrity despite it. Seneca reinforces this truth in Letters to Lucilius by Seneca, chapter 3. He teaches that wisdom does not eliminate fear. It teaches us not to surrender our judgment to it. A wise man may feel uncertainty, but he refuses to let uncertainty determine his actions. That is the difference between being ruled by emotion and being guided by principle. Think back to every fear we explored today. The fear of starting, the fear of being judged, the fear of your own potential, the fear of temporary pain, the fear of becoming someone different. At first, they seem like separate fears. They are not. They all ask the same question. Will you allow fear to decide who you become? Or will you decide that for yourself? Every meaningful life is built through that choice, not once, but every single day. Fear will always offer you a smaller life, a safer life, a more predictable life, a life with fewer risks. It will also be a life with fewer victories, fewer memories, fewer transformations, fewer moments where you discover what you were truly capable of becoming. That is why the Stoics never waited for fear to disappear. They understood something timeless. Fear loses its power the moment your principles become more important than your comfort. One day, people may look at your life and admire your confidence, your discipline, your resilience, your courage. They will assume those qualities came naturally. They never will. They will never see the mornings when fear told you to stay where you were, the opportunities fear told you to postpone, the conversations fear begged you to avoid, the versions of yourself fear tried to preserve. They will only see the man who kept moving forward anyway. Remember this: fear never asks you to stop living all at once. It only asks you to become a little smaller today, then a little smaller tomorrow, until your entire future fits inside your fears. Do not give it that victory. Choose the difficult conversation. Choose the uncertain beginning. Choose the uncomfortable transformation. Choose the life that demands courage instead of permission. Because every time you choose principle over fear, you become a man that fear can no longer control. Ask yourself one final question. Are your fears protecting your life, or are they preventing you from living it? The answer to that question will shape your future far more than fear ever could. If this lesson challenged the way you think, subscribe to the Discipline Code and join thousands of men who are building discipline, courage, and unshakable character through the timeless wisdom of Stoicism. Because the strongest man is not the one who never feels fear. It is the one who refuses to let fear decide who he becomes.